Are you taking on a new responsibility at work? Well, I did earlier this year, and today I'm going to share 4 things that I did that have helped me become successful. Let's get right into it. Okay, so for context, I managed the esports program for the Halo game, but started in January. It's my first time really owning something directly in the game in this way. It was a big deal for me. I took it very seriously, and the first thing I did to make sure that I was learning appropriately and getting adjusted was I talked to the experts. So I set up one-on-ones with people that I had a close relationship with and that I could learn from. And I just went in like a total dummy. And I said, hey, can you give me your best tips to being, we call it the studio product owner. So I asked for, what do you do as a product owner? How do you deal with stakeholders? What other tips, things have you learned that you could share with me? I didn't pretend that I knew everything, and I didn't pretend that I didn't have anything to learn or anything like that. I just went and talked to the experts, and I learned as much as I could. It helped me kind of build the trust that I was going to come into this new role and kind of take my best step forward. I think generally speaking, it's flattering when someone comes to you and asks for advice or comes, to you as an expert. So I wanted to make sure I went to the experts and the people with lots of experience who had wisdom that they could impart with me. And it helped me a lot because I was able to learn really rapidly, from the mistakes and lessons that people had learned in the past. I think if I went in without that, then I would have just made the same mistakes that other people would have met, and it would have slowed down my progress for sure. So first thing I would do, talk to the experts. Number 2 is studied and observed. For me, I talked about it in this channel, but I'm an introvert. When I'm in meetings or what conversations with people, I listen very intently, not only to what people are saying, but how they're saying it, what's their body language, how do they respond to different questions or comments or feedback and things like that. And so as part of this process, I got kind of pulled into these bigger meetings with literally almost 100 plus people from the studio, sharing their work, talking about things that went wrong or right. I started to get more exposure to this whole new process that I was now going to have to play a part in. And I just kind of listened and I observed and I studied and I took note of, interesting how this person answered that question, or hey, they gave this feedback on the thing and clearly didn't get a good response. So I just studied and observed and made sure I listened and paid attention to everything that I could. And that helped me kind of soak things into kind of my own role and how I was going to take things going forward. I think that one of the things that I learned is, especially in a big setting like this, don't be defensive. If someone's questioning your work or they're maybe they're not super pleased with how much of the work was done, whatever it might be, don't be defensive. Be honest. Make sure you're holding yourself accountable and you're comfortable being kind of grilled in that way. So lots of things to learn when you're able to kind of study and observe people, especially if they are people who have a lot more experience than you in the role that you're in. And number 3 for me was to stick my neck out early and often. So what I mean by that is, I took over managing this product in January. We started shipping things and making updates to the game literally a week later. It was important that for me, we were acting quickly so that we could not only address customer feedback, but if we got things wrong, we could learn really quickly. Instead of just taking the approach of trying to gather as much information as you can, trying to make sure you get everything perfectly on your first try, I took the opposite approach, which was we're gonna start shipping. And we made some mistakes along the way. We created some discomfort for players who were competing before a tournament and whatnot. But ultimately, in the long run, it helps us manage the product better, deliver faster and better updates to the players. Me as a product owner, I learned a lot. I learned different processes, working with different people. I was starting to build a rapport and relationship with lots of different people. And of course, the results started coming in too and reflecting, positive community sentiment because they liked the changes that we were making. And that was reflected in the numbers that we saw in the game as well. So, I think it was important that, I just started saying, hey, we need to update XYZ and we need to do it as soon as we possibly can, and building out this plan. And now, since January, we've shipped dozens and dozens of updates to the game already. In just a few months, our whole unit that kind of works on this stuff and oversees the competitive, we have so much more experience. We've built up the relationships. It just like accelerated everything so much. So obviously everyone's job is different. You know, what that looks like for you might be different than others. My kind of Uber feedback is don't be afraid to kind of have an opinion. Don't be afraid to fail. Make sure that the people around you are creating a safe space and you understand kind of your boundaries and your parameters for failure and learning. You know, one thing that I also did was, in terms of sticking my neck out, just kind of had an opinion on things and had a perspective of here's what I think we should do, here's the problems that I'm trying to solve for, and again, shared it with experts and got feedback. And a lot of times I got feedback that was like, I'm not sure this is a good idea, or hey, there might be a better way, or hey, you're not thinking of this. And I got humbled. There were a bunch of times where like my ideas were not the right ones. You know, that's totally fine because we took the right ones. And I'm glad I shared it with people because I got that feedback. Again, I think if I just hoarded and didn't share, then that's where we really make big mistakes. If you can safely get your neck out there and try different things and fail and learn and get feedback on different things, ultimately, that's going to accelerate your progress to becoming better at your job, right? It's all about getting reps. It's all about, you know, how much time in can you get on this product and actually doing the work. Number 4 is be clear about your intentions and your attitude. So for me, I was now working with dozens of new people that never worked for me before. You know, I've been at the studio for a long time, but it's very possible they heard about me through other people. There were questions. Maybe they saw something that I, did at a studio all hands meeting, or who knows, you know what I mean? Like, you never know what impressions people have of you, especially if you haven't met them. For me, I wanted to be clear about everything, what my intentions were, and kind of set the tone for how I wanted to work with the people around me. What's interesting about kind of the product that I manage is I have to rely on other teams to actually do the work, because let's just say like making an update to the game, like my team and the people who work in this group with me, like we're not the ones that are actually going in there and making the changes to the game. We have to work with a lot of other teams to get this in. And so when I thought about that, it's like, okay, well, how can I get as much done as possible? And what I quickly realized is the relationships I have with these people and how much I can get them to believe in the cause and kind of see the problems that we're trying to solve and see what potential good solutions there are, the more support that I could get. And so that meant I had to be very upfront with, here's what I'm trying to solve, here's what I'm trying to do, almost like show your hands, like I'm not hiding anything, there's nothing behind my back. Just made my intentions clear, made sure people understand where I was coming from, what I'm trying to solve for, and getting them kind of bought into the problem and part of the whole process. So for me, like, the people I work with and the partnership that I have with them and the relationship is everything. Like we don't get to do anything or accomplish our goals if it's not for all the people who not only work super hard, but also make tough decisions alongside me and the rest of the group. So make sure your intentions are clear. Make sure you get the right attitude going into this, right? You want to make sure that you're humble. Don't pretend like you know everything. Especially for me, I was working with developers who'd been building things for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Like, I don't have that level of experience, especially not in a various amount of fields like engineering and whatever it might be. So, I took a humble approach, curious approach, learned as much as I could. Honestly, the people I work with are like amazing. They're so talented. They work so hard. And I'm like more often than not like surprised and delighted by the quality of the work that they do and some of the quality of ideas and execution, stuff that I would never even think to do. So for me, it's again, how best can I work with these people and make sure the relationship is set up in a really strong way so that ultimately, we all have the same goal, which is deliver the best experience to our customers. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Best of luck to you if you're taking on new responsibility and a new role at work. Hopefully these 4 tips and what I learned from myself are helpful to you. If you like the channel, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.